Hey everyone, welcome back to Mentally Fit. This is Hippie here. Just coming at you with a small update. Just wanted to talk to you guys about just this season, right? Let's start off with right? it I'm filming this on Christmas. I am at work by choice. I will say that, right? They offered me hours, so it's time and a half, so why not, I guess. But I kind of just wanted to talk a bit, maybe about kind of just what's been going on in the holidays and stuff. I think the holidays is a really rough time for people. Um, I was just talking with a good friend of mine, and she really, really hates the holidays, and I don't like it either too much. It just seems so I don't know, so materialistic. I think that since this is the first year where I've heard a lot of people say, "Hey, it doesn't feel like Christmas," or "It doesn't feel like this" for whatever reason, and I think that without the snow and the music and the lights, and without people bringing that Christmas cheer, it doesn't feel like Christmas, right? It just feels like people are spending a shitload of money going into debt and trying to impress people who they only show that they love them once a year. But yeah, this was one of the first Christmases where I was completely entirely alone. Um, Mixed feelings. It's difficult on one side because you're not with your family, you're not with the people you care about. But then on the other side, there's almost a liberating aspect of it, right? To not give in to this mass marketing holiday. I mean, again, I don't celebrate Christmas per se, right? I'll participate, I guess you can say. We had a Secret Santa here at work, and there's a coworker who she's been going through some things, and I just blessed a candle for her, and gave her a candle to hopefully illuminate her way, and just kind of ease some of the things that she's going through. Um, so I'll participate, right? No problem there. But generally, I don't celebrate, right? Um, yeah, just holidays. I know it's tough for a lot of you because you're just away from family. Some people lost family. There's a lot going on in people's lives. A lot of people have a loss that they're dealing with. I have another friend of mine who she just lost her dog, and I could not imagine not having, my puppy Luna here with me for the holidays or just any day period. I love her so much. There's days where I think about it. I'm like, the day God forbid she goes. I mean, I know she, God, God forbid, we even believe in God, but but for lack of better words, I know that there's gonna be that day, and I often just tear up even now thinking about it. So I can't imagine what my friend is going through and stuff. It just I don't know. It's just a reminder that we all struggle. We got to check up on each other. We got to speak to each other. Um, because it is difficult. I think it is a difficult time, and not only is it just a difficult time, it's just difficult. Period. Right? It's something that we go through, and it's really hard sometimes to just wrap our heads around why we feel the way that we feel, especially when you're dealing with mental illness, right? Which is what we speak about here on this channel, dealing with depression and bipolar and schizophrenia and so many of these illnesses. It just puts you traps you in your mind where you're not able to be festive, right? You're not able to be happy. You feel horrible, and I can very much relate to that a lot, um, in the past and even now. So I just encourage you guys to reach out to your friends who are dealing with mental illness. I'd also like you guys to keep your heads up, and please don't go into debt. Please don't put yourself in a position where financially or spiritually or emotionally you're going to be stuck, right? To impress people who don't need those gifts, right? There's so many ways to show people that we care about them that isn't materialistic in nature. And I think that we often forget about that. One thing that I've been trying to do on my Facebook page is just picking a person who's on my page who I felt who's really helped me out through a tough time, or or just really stood out, and just writing a nice little paragraph about them, sharing with them about how much they changed my life and things like that. That's kind of been a common theme for me actually lately, is the understanding of saying things before it's too late, right? Before someone's gone and things. And one of the things that just comes to mind is I was just watching XXX Tentacion documentary. Amazing artist, just speaks on mental illness in a way that I've never seen done in at least his genre, right? The closest band I think that moved me in that way and spoke on mental illness really predominantly was probably Linkin Park, right? Hybrid Theory, for a lot of us, that was like the album to like, there was no topping it, right? I mean, every track, Crawling was a big one for me. It was just thinking back to that album, right? In the end, that's everyone's, right? But again, in the end, right? I mean, the stuff that Chester Bennington was going through, and the depression that he suffered, and abuse and things. I mean, he carried that over into his adult life. And even with all the money in the world, it's one of the most beloved singers I could think of. And beautiful family, wife, kids, bandmates, friends, fans, and he lost his life to depression. So I just really think that we need to remember these things, right? We need to remember that this takes people's lives. It's not something that it's not a joke, and I think that often people find themselves in that routine of, oh, well, I can call them tomorrow, or, oh, I don't want to, invite that misery into my life. Let me not call so and so, or let me not respond to this person. And you just never know what light you can be to someone, right? And again, we have to do this at we have to pace ourselves, right? That's one thing that I'm learning a lot too recently. It's just that you can't give everything to everyone, right? The idea that you can't pour from an empty cup. It's a very real statement, right? It's a very real idea. Not difficult to understand, but we often forget it. I know, at least I do. I'm constantly in my DMs on Facebook and here, and messages, and people, asking me, hey, how do I do this? Or I need help with this, or this is going on. And again, I find, I please don't take this as complaining, because it's not that. I'm very privileged. I'm very blessed to be that person, right? Who people rely on. But also, it becomes very tiring, and it depletes my mental health if I don't take the proper precautions to make sure that I'm okay, right? And that's why it's so important that I make sure that I have the right people around me. This holiday, not even just this holiday, but these past few months, I've been very to myself. I don't hang out with a lot of people. Most of, if not all of my friends are social media friends. It's amazing how our culture has just switched from, I mean, I can tell you in high school, I had tons of friends. I knew tons of people who I can call and say, hey, let's go here, let's do this or that. But now I can't even get someone to go to a concert with me, or oh, well, I don't like that type of music. Or, people have girlfriends and boyfriends now, and that's their only priority. So, I mean, so much has changed in my life. People who I thought last year were my family, and they would never do this to me and that, and now, not that they're bad people, but they're not in my life anymore, right? Or at least they're there, but I'm not getting phone calls from them, and if I am, it's to keep that relationship alive, barely. It's not how are you doing, how are you really doing. We change so much, I often get people from high school and all this, and oh my gosh, and remember, and this and that. And it's always nice to walk down memory lane, especially when it's nice memories. If it's horrible memories, just stay away from it. But when it's good memories, you feel nostalgic, but so much of it is people reminding you of who you used to be, right? And that's not what we're trying to be anymore. We're trying to be better. We're trying to evolve, and being reminded of what I did 15 years ago and who I was 15 years ago, it serves as a good reminder to show me of where I came from. But I'm not that person anymore, and people who continue under this assumption that because I knew him, or because I knew him in high school and this, and because we had a friendship once, that means that it's always going to be there. And no, you have to work on these things, right? I'm a big fan of having friendships where you can pick up where you left off, by all means, right? I have a good understanding, and in life I used to be very, how do I put it, just very attached to people, right? So the second I found out someone got a girlfriend or a boyfriend, or they were going to go to college, to a different college than I was, or they got a different job, just anything, I think there was just the separation anxiety of, oh my gosh, this person's gone now, they're going to move on and they're going to find new friends and this, and that means it's over between us, right? And I just eventually, it's ignorance in your youth, but once you realize that it is that separation anxiety and things like that, you start working on it. And now I realize, I'm glad when people move on and they go do things and different things with their lives, and go to different, places and date different people and different experiences. That's all I want for myself. So I can celebrate that in another person, and we can pick off where we left off. But just this idea that because we're friends on social media, you know who I am. It's just a very strange place that we've evolved to, and I'd say evolved very loosely. Um, we're just not human anymore. You know, it just gets so difficult sometimes, and you don't know what to say, you don't know what to do. All you can do is exist. And there's just such an emptiness about it sometimes that it's hard not to get choked up about it, because you feel lost. You feel trapped in this illness, trapped in a prison, and sometimes we make these prisons ourselves, in our own minds and in our lives and things. But there's life, there's life after this. You know what I mean? There's hope. And I really believe that. As much as sometimes I just want to be the cynical and just be a pessimist and say, fuck it all, right? Just fuck everyone and this. And even me, I'm going through it personally right now too, with friendships and relationships, and trying to understand, why am I treated like a doorstep? Why is my life seem to be a revolving door for people? And I think a lot of it has to do with the boundaries that I haven't set, right? It's been brought to me by someone who I actually really, really care about, that I I don't have as many boundaries as I should, right? And that invitation of welcoming, right? That presence of welcoming, and you're welcome here, and you can be yourself, and I'll be there for you, and I'll be your cheerleader, and anything you need, I'm here. That mentality, it's a beautiful thing, but it's a double-edged sword. It's a double-edged sword, man, and you have to be careful, because you can turn into this person who you're constantly cheering for other people, and when you're suffering in silence, they don't know. And I don't think it's that they don't care. I think it's just that they're caught up in their own shit. And that's what a lot of this is, right? A lot of us are just caught up in our own bullshit. But I just implore you that when you're feeling this way and when you're feeling like things are just so overwhelming, reach out to a friend, right? And not just reach out to them to talk about your situation. If I could encourage you to do something, at least this holiday season, when you're feeling your worst, call someone else and ask them how they're doing. Because the reality is we're all struggling. My mom, she often said something to me growing up, and I absolutely hated it, because I felt like it was so dismissive of my emotions. It was dismissive of everything, right? And in reality, it wasn't. And now I'm going to share it with you. Um, she would say, you don't have to look far to your left or far to your right to see someone in a worse situation than you're in. And I remember being a kid and thinking to myself, well, I don't care about other people's situations. Fuck that person's situation. I'm going through some shit, man. Like, give me some good advice. Give me a hug. Give me something. Cook me some. I don't know. But I just it's true. There's just so many people in just worse situations, and they're making the best of their situation. And there's so much to be learned from that, right? There's such a strength in taking what you're going through and flipping the script and turning it around and saying, I'm going to use this for good. Some of us were raised in just very traumatic atmospheres, and some of us have dealt with trauma and abuse, and it's like that doesn't have to define us, right? It doesn't have to define you. You can turn that around and be the best person that you can be, and choose to not repeat that cycle of abuse, right? Choose to raise your kids in a functional, safe home, maybe like the one that you didn't get, or sexual abuse and things like that. Keep an eye on your children. Maybe someone didn't keep a good eye on you, and that's more of a reason to keep a better eye on your children. Just things like that. I think it's important for us to break these cycles, right? To not keep carrying this baggage, because it doesn't serve us, right? It doesn't. I can tell you this: when I had growing up, I had a lot of baggage about my father. There's very, very few people who understand the dynamic, or even know about it. Um, but it took me a long time to drop that. And I can say honestly that it's only recently that I've decided to just leave it in my past and not pick it up anymore. Not even revisit it, right? There's just nothing. I've been there. I've revisited it 100 times and asked myself why, and this, and there's no solution, right? There's no answer, right? Whether that's in relationships with your family, relationships with someone you're dating, you might be dealing with it with a spouse, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, a roommate. Little Ellen DeGeneres joke there. But you might be going through it. You know what I mean? And it's just important to remember that it's not the end all be all, right? Like, we're all struggling. Just remember, like, we're all trying to get to a place, right? It's different places, but and different roads, but the goal is the same, and it's to be okay, right? It's to be happy, and again, it's not a destination. Happiness isn't a destination, right? It's a state of mind. So we have to remember that it's not a place that we're going to get to, right? Where we're going to continue to walk and this and, oh wow, we've reached happiness, right? Look, fucking windows are nice here. Look at this, they got food and whatever. Like, no, that's not happiness, right? Happiness is a state of mind. So you can create this state of mind in turmoil, so that when excuse me, so that way when you're going through these things and stuff like that, you have your safe space, right? You can have a place where you visit to in your mind, and you understand that this person in front of me behaving this way is not a reflection of me, but it's a reflection of them. Like a great example, two guests actually just came in. It looks like they've been drinking a little, and guy and lady, and he seemed okay, but she was like drunk, and she was just talking, and she was being kind of facetious. She's just like, oh my gosh, like to work this thing and this is not, it must suck. This job must suck. And guess what? She's not wrong. She's not wrong. But again, right, the presentation of it, and then she's like, we need this and we need that, and I hear him telling her like, shut up, be quiet, because he's clearly embarrassed, right? She's not behaving right, and she's just going off and then saying this and that, and I mean, she must have been like in her in her 50s. She's behaving like she's like 16 years old. Like it's just it's more proof that we're all looking for who we are, right? You know, age doesn't mean that you're mature, right? Because she was not behaving very well. But again, I could internalize that and I can make it, oh, I'm working on Christmas and this and that, and look, and yeah, she's right, and yeah, like you can flip the script, right? I took it and said, you know what, it is a shitty job. Let me maybe look for something else, right? Or not even look for something else, but let me start my dreams, right? For me, it was let me make a YouTube video, right? So even if it's not to get you famous, it's not for all this wealth, it's just to do something different, right? To feel alive a little, to share your heart and to share information and words with other people, to establish relationships and to socialize, right? Communication is so important and it's just lost on so many of us, whether it's, oh, I'll text you, or, oh, I don't want to pick up the phone, why is so-and-so calling me? Or again, thinking that you have a relationship with someone just because you're social media friends. It's just very bizarre. It's all very bizarre. And navigating in this life where we're kind of in the middle, well, at least I can only speak for my millennium. I'm 30 years old, so I was around at a time where there was no cell phones, right? Or rather, there were very little of them, and now every child, every person has them, and we don't understand the effects of this stuff on us. Like, it's so scary, right? And how much it affects our mental health. I can tell you this, and I can promise you this: when I'm off social media for a few days, I feel better. That's a fact. That is downright fact. When I am off social media, I feel better. I don't have those triggers, right? Sure, things might feel a little bit more boring and I have to get creative again, right? Oh my God, creativity. Oh my gosh, right? Like, I have to start thinking, what can I do with my time? Oh my God, so much time in a day, and I've just been, spent scrolling on a phone, and hours later, and I've done nothing. Nothing. Literally just wasted my life away. So it's all very bizarre sometimes, and it's just hard to wrap your head around, and at least for me it is. And again, it's about finding a balance, and there's actually been a thought that's been running through my mind, and it's been taking a hiatus from social media, and again, not just a few days, but I was thinking something dramatic like 6 months, and just using those 6 months to focus on myself. Um, I would continue making YouTube videos, of course. I have a business that I want to run, and things I want to establish. So what makes it hard is that I need a social media presence, right? So I'm working that out. I'm trying to figure out the logistics of it, of how I can still obviously be productive and run a business, right? A successful business, but also not get lost in this mindless scrolling of sharing pictures and this. And even though a lot of what I share is motivational, right? I mean, so much of it is destigmatizing mental health, and a lot of things on gay rights, and LGBTQ rights, and I'm a firm believer in you should be able to love who you want to love, right? And you should be able to live your best life as long as you aren't hurting anyone, you aren't breaking any laws. You should be able to live your best life, right? I don't give a fuck who you love, right? I don't give a fuck what's in between your pants or what you do with it or how you use it. What I care about is what kind of person you are, right, in the end, and how you treat others and animals. and animals. That's a big part of this. Animals. Um, it's that's what I care about, right? The substance of your character, the merit of your character, not who you date, right? I mean, it's nothing to do with me, right? If I'm not going to, it has nothing to do with me, right? Point blank. But I can still be happy for you, even if I don't understand why you're doing the things that you're doing, or I don't understand the choices, or this or that. I might not understand it, and it might seem so foreign to me. And a lot of that is because I wasn't raised in that atmosphere. I was raised in somewhat of a very religious atmosphere, right? So gay rights and all that stuff, and it just wasn't, it was foreign to me, right? Until reality was until I moved to California. Um, all those years ago when I was 20, and it was still one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. That's where I found my independence. That's where I found who I was. That's also where I was diagnosed with bipolar. So it was a really rough 6 years for me, but it just shaped me into the person I am today, and I'm so I wouldn't change any of it, because it made me into the person that I am today. I'm so thankful for the people that I met along this journey. I mean, people who are still my family today. My roommate Laura, I love her to death. You know, her girlfriend Erica, our neighbor Robbie. There's just so many people. You know, Christian. Uh, so many people who I met who I think of, and it just brings a smile to my face, because I know that I rubbed elbows with some of the greatest people to walk this earth, you know, and some of the most loving and compassionate and honest people, and ironically, they were all either lesbian or gay or this, and it just showed me a new perspective, it just opened me up to say, wow, there's everyone's the same, everyone. It doesn't matter who you love, or mental illness, or the color of your skin, or none of it matters, none of it, because in the end we're all connected, you know, and it's just it's a beautiful thing, you know what I mean? It's it almost takes my breath away to think about it, that we're all just connected in such a way, so beautiful. You know, how could you hate a part of you, right? If we see each other as connected, and we're all part of the same body, could you choose which hand you like better? I mean, I guess you could, right? I'm a righty, so maybe I want my right. But I could tell you this, I don't want to lose my left one, right? Which eye do I see better out of? They're clearly both shitty. Excuse me. I have recovering from the flu, but I crack myself up. It's a riot all the time in my head. But uh, I still love both my eyes. You know what I mean? So how could I truly hate another person for just trying to find the best way out, right? The best way that works for them, and all I can do is just love on people, and love people where they are, and respect people where they are, and not try to change people and bring them to a place where I think they should be, because it's not up to me, right? Where it's all up to us, where we're going to go, and how we're going to live our lives, and the things that we're going to do, and all of that is up to us, right? And your mental illness, your depression, your bipolar, it's a part of you, but it doesn't define you, right? And you don't have to let it determine the things that you're going to do with your life. You can do amazing things having bipolar. I can't tell you how many people, just look it up, how many people have bipolar. So many of my heroes, I mean, one of my biggest heroes is Carrie Fisher, you know, Princess Leia, right? Just how she fought so eloquently, how she spoke so eloquently about her mental illness, you know. Um, Kurt Cobain, just Amy Winehouse. There was so many people that dealt with this illness, right? And it just they still went on to do amazing things. And it's not to say that they didn't have their issues, right? With a lot of people who suffer from bipolar, I notice that there's often something you need to numb a lot of the emotion, a lot of the voices in your head. And music is one way to do that. But for a lot of these musicians, well, I'm guessing when you're creating something, music specifically, or not even specifically, for me, I create too, but just in different things, right? So I can tell you that my creativity becomes very diminished when I'm not right mentally, right? So you have, Amy Winehouse again using heroin, Kurt Cobain using heroin, um, Carrie Fisher, back in the days using coke and stimulants and things like that to kind of numb the effects of mental illness. And I think that so many of us try to do this, and I mean, I'm guilty of it as well, right? I have to be very careful about the substances that I mess around with, because I know that I have an addictive nature, right? That's just who I am as a person. I know that I can take things to excess, whether that's smoking, whether that's drinking, even my emotions. I have to keep things in check, because if I get around the wrong people, or I have this beautiful girl, just I could lose myself, right? And I've done it, and I've been there. And my goal in 2020 is just to not keep repeating these mistakes, right? Just There's that movie Groundhog's Day, right? Where again you're just repeating the same day over and over and over again, and it's like, I think that's how the universe operates, is that it gives us these lessons, and it just shapes it in different masks, right? Different colors per se, something that we won't recognize right away. But if you stop and think about it, it's the same lesson, just wrapped in a different story. And so many of us, and it's not a insult, it's not, we fall for it. I do all the time, all the time, when it comes to relationships and this and that. And then I ask myself, when are things going to work out? Things are going to work out when you start realizing what the lesson is, understanding that the lesson is going to come around again. So once you're out of the lesson and you've freed yourself from it, maybe you didn't free yourself, right? Maybe the person freed you, maybe you were broken up with, maybe things ended badly, and now you're just at the worst point in your life. Let's say you're in the lowest valleys. Let's say, you know that come up is coming, right? So you work out, you do what you got to do, you get that come up, but you have to realize that, again, mental illness, even just life, it's a roller coaster, right? There's those low valleys, and then there's those the steep ones, where you're feeling good, but you have to realize that we're all going to come down again, right? And not only that, the universe is going to send us that lesson again, right? Wrapped in a different story. And now it's up to us to recognize these red flags that we often avoid when it comes to love and friendships, and even business relationships, right? Just anything, right? We ignore these red flags of, I remember this is kind of like this person. Oh, but don't compare people. So let's not go down that route. And oh, well, this is what I allowed before, and now it's happening again. So I should do. There's just so much analyzing, and I just think that when love finds you, when it's the right people in the right place, and it's meant for you, it's gonna feel okay. And I don't think it's not gonna take work, right? Because everything takes a bit of work, but it's gonna feel easy. It's gonna feel good. It's not gonna feel like you're giving yourself to someone who isn't giving themselves to you. So we've covered a lot today, and we can cover so much more. I mean, I can just talk for hours, which is probably why some of my friends and people don't pick up my calls, is because I can go on about this for hours, because I'm very passionate about it. And I think that that's why I just make these videos, is, I've kind of stopped and thought, like, what's the reason for this, right? Is it, do you want to get big and make money and this? And you think to yourself, wow, that'd be great. But what's the point if you're not reaching people, right? What's the point if you're not being your authentic self? And I think that that's why not only do I make these videos, I try to make them, again, in just one long sequence, right? No cuts or anything like that. Even though I would totally love to learn, right? This is part of 2020, so part of 2020 is going to be learning how to do that stuff. Um, I'm setting up a little YouTube studio at my house and things just where I can film, but mainly just where I can talk. So, some things to look out for 2020 is hopefully I'm hoping to do some interviews with people, whether it's in my home, or maybe over Skype. I'd love some volunteers. We can just, have a conversation around mental health, and hopefully if you're okay with it, releasing it, and just the point is to help just one person. If we could save one person from feeling alone, one person sees this video and they think to themselves, wow, like, he's doing it, I can do it too. Because I'm not strong, people. That's the thing. I'm just lucky. That's really what it comes down to, I think. I think that even more than luck, I think I'm just guided by the universe, and it's that understanding that I'm going to be okay, that things aren't as bad as they seem sometimes, and that I'm put here for something more than just me. I think honestly we're all put here to serve others in one way or another. That is the most gratifying thing that you can do, is serve others. It's the best feeling. I can't even explain it. When you do something kind for someone out of your heart, how good that feels. And guess what? You can ask for money now. You could say, hey, I'm going to sell this jacket. And say, hey, I'm going to sell it now. And you can make those $40 now. And it'll feel good. $40. You get them all in singles or something. Or you get them all in coins like I do. And then you chuck them at people. But it feels good. But the reality is, I think what we should start thinking about is not what can I get from this, but how can this help someone else, right? So, like, instead of the $40, let me give this to this person. I'm not using it anymore. It doesn't bring me joy, but this is going to change this person's life. Maybe not their whole life, but in just a small way, it'll make them happy. They might need it. So let me do that. And guess what? You're just opening yourself up for an abundance. And I mean an abundance of gifts and lessons and just so much from the universe. There's just, you can't even fathom how much you'll get. It's so much. So I just encourage you to reach out to your friends, reach out to your families who are dealing with mental illness. Reach out to, even if they're not dealing with mental illness, just because it's important. You know what I mean? It's just so important that we do this, that we look out for each other. So I just want to remind you guys, have a happy holidays. Please, please don't stress it. If you get in a situation, please remember to breathe as non what's the word I'm looking for? Just wow, kind of like, oh, that's not very. I'm drawing a blank. I'm sorry. But just the understanding of it's not revelation, right? It's not, oh my gosh, like, thank you for the advice. But it's like, I just remember to breathe and separate it yourself if you need to. That's what I do. I'll say, hey, I need 5 minutes, and I'll go outside and I'll just get some air or whatever. I'll sit in my car. If I need to cry, I will cry. You do what you need to do to make sure that you're okay. But you make sure that you put yourself first. And please, please, please put yourself first. Don't sacrifice your mental health for other people. Don't put yourself in that situation, because the only way that we can be the best us is when we're taking care of ourselves first, because that enables us to then take care of others. And that's the biggest thing. And I'll leave you with this. My favorite quote from Shakespeare is from Hamlet. And is when Hamlet is speaking to Horatio. And he says to Horatio, "'Tis above all things to thine own self be true." And he continues to say that it's truer than the sky and it's truer than the stars. And that always stuck out to me a lot. Just, it always stood out so much that when I got my first tattoo, and again, this is years ago, on my wrist, I'll show you, I got, you kind of can't see it, but I got stay, well, that's the true part, but I got stay true across my wrist. And the reason I got that is to remember, 'tis above all things. Above all things. That means above everything, right? Above your family, above your love interest, above your job, above your grandma, above everyone. And it might seem selfish, but because that's what we're trained to think, right? We're trained to think that way, and it's not. 'Tis above all things, to thine own self be true. Be true to yourself first. And I believe that, because if you're true to yourself, and I 100% believe this, if you are true to yourself, everything else, and I mean everything else, will fall in line. And I promise you that. That is something that I live by. I would not have got it tattooed on my wrist if I did not believe this. And I got it there so I can look down and remember, stay true to yourself. Stay true to your desires. Doesn't matter what your job thinks, or what your job is, or where you are in life, or who you're dating, or how you feel. None of that matters in the end. What matters is how you feel about yourself and whether you stay true to your desires. So I encourage you. Now, I don't more than encourage you. I implore you, I beg you to put yourself first, especially this holiday season and this new year, this new 2020. Make it a goal to put yourself first, to make your mental health a priority. And I promise you that your life will get better. And I'm going to be right there doing it with you, right? This isn't something that I've reached enlightenment. It's something that I have to work on every single day. So I'll be there with you, working through this. We're going to get through this together. We're going to be okay. Have a happy holidays, and I love you all.